The drama surrounding Joe Flacco's surprise start and Shedeur Sanders' stunning benching did not just alter the Cleveland Browns' game plan, it detonated an earthquake across the entire NFL ecosystem. What should have been one of the league's most anticipated primetime matchups quickly unraveled into a public relations disaster, a business catastrophe, and perhaps the beginning of a regime-ending scandal inside Cleveland's facility. The story begins not with the first whistle, but with the weeks of anticipation leading up to it. For nearly a month, the Browns' marketing machine had been working at full throttle. Every billboard, every social post, every teaser segment on national television positioned the showdown as a generational duel. Sanders versus Joe Burrow, two young quarterbacks representing the league's future. This was the marquee. This was the draw. This was why millions planned their Sunday night around football. Shedeur Sanders was not just the quarterback of Cleveland. He was the centerpiece of a storyline the entire NFL had invested in. Then, just moments before kickoff, reality shifted. Joe Flacco trotted out of the tunnel, helmet strapped, ready to lead Cleveland's offense. And in that instant, everything changed. In the parking lots, tailgaters staring at their phones saw the news flash across timelines. Conversations froze, replaced by disbelief. Inside the stadium, fans who had paid premium ticket prices for Sanders' debut demanded explanations from ushers, security, anyone wearing a Browns badge. What had been a celebration of hope and excitement curdled into something darker. For many, it wasn't just disappointment, it was betrayal. On the surface, benching a rookie quarterback could be framed as a football decision, a tactical choice. But here, it was much more than that. It represented a rupture between franchise and fan base, between the promises made and the product delivered. The backlash was immediate and merciless. Viewership numbers tell the story in merciless detail. The broadcast began with 18.2 million tuning in, anticipation palpable. But by halftime, that number had collapsed to 11.7 million, and by the final whistle, fewer than 10 million remained. For comparison, the last Browns-Bengals primetime meeting had averaged over 22 million from start to finish. The collapse was staggering, a 40% hemorrhage in real time. Advertisers panicked, network executives scrambled on emergency calls, and the league suddenly found its crown jewel Sunday night broadcast transformed into a cautionary tale. Inside the stadium, the atmosphere was no better. The roar that typically accompanies Cleveland's offense was replaced with muted groans as Flacco executed conservative checkdowns and play-action passes. Entire sections emptied by the third quarter, fans streaming toward exits or crowding concourses to vent frustrations. Merchandise vendors reported an unprecedented scene. Sanders jerseys being returned en masse, some abandoned outright. One vendor called it Black Friday in reverse. Instead of buying, everyone was bringing things back. And on social media, the outrage was volcanic. Within minutes, the hashtag #StartShedeur had gone viral, amassing nearly 850,000 impressions in the first hour alone. By halftime, Fire Stefanski had joined it, used over 600,000 times. A single tweet. The only reason I was watching was, for Shedeur, they benched him. I'm out. Garnered over 127,000 likes and became the anthem of the night. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, every platform pulsed with disbelief and fury. Fans weren't just angry, they were united in rebellion. What made the moment even more volatile was that Sanders himself had reportedly been blindsided. Sources inside the organization revealed that he had been informed of the decision barely an hour before kickoff, after warming up, after mentally preparing for the biggest showcase of his young career. Witnesses described him as furious, throwing his helmet and storming toward the locker room before veterans intervened. Cameras later caught him standing alone on the sideline, helmet off, arms folded, the picture of isolation. That image, more than any play on the field, became the defining snapshot of the night. Meanwhile, Stefanski's post-game explanation rang hollow. Facing the media, he insisted the move was based on matchup considerations and framed it as giving the Browns the best chance to win. Reporters immediately pressed, what matchups change less than 2 hours before kickoff? What defensive looks required benching your most dynamic player? Stefanski deflected, then retreated into empty cliches. It fooled no one. His credibility, already damaged by a turbulent training camp, evaporated. The statistics made his decision look even worse. Flacco finished 18 of 31 for 186 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and 3 sacks. The offense mustered just 268 total yards, converted only 4 of 13 third downs, and scored a mere 17 points, 10 of which came in garbage time against a prevent defense. Cincinnati cruised to a 27-10 victory that never felt competitive. In contrast, Sanders' preseason had been electrifying, a 67% completion rate, over 9 yards per attempt, 7 touchdowns against 1 interception, and a highlight reel of plays that electrified the city. In practices, he'd routinely shredded Cleveland's first-team defense with throws and improvisations Flacco could no longer physically attempt. Everyone inside the building knew who gave the Browns their best chance at offensive life. And yet, when it mattered, Stefanski chose the 39-year-old veteran. The consequences extended beyond the field. The locker room, already fragile, splintered. Receivers who had built chemistry with Sanders during camp found themselves running dulled routes to accommodate Flacco's limited velocity. Offensive linemen, already struggling, were forced to block for a stationary quarterback incapable of escaping pressure. Defenders, exhausted after carrying the burden all game, watched their work squandered. Publicly, veterans like Myles Garrett and Nick Chubb offered cautious support for the process, but privately, frustration simmered. Younger players showed their discontent more openly, liking and sharing social media posts calling for Sanders' return. The fracture was undeniable. Above it all loomed ownership. Jimmy Haslam had personally championed Sanders' selection, overruling scouts and coaches to make sure the Browns secured him. The marketing department had poured millions into campaigns featuring his face. The business side had projected revenue, increases tied directly to his stardom. Stefanski's decision didn't just bench a quarterback. It undermined ownership's strategy, sabotaged marketing's efforts, and obliterated financial projections. Reports suggest Haslam was livid, watching ratings collapse in real time, demanding immediate explanations. Nationally, the condemnation was swift and unanimous. Colin Cowherd labeled it the most destructive coaching decision of the modern era. Stephen A. Smith's furious rant, eyes wide, voice booming. They benched Shedeur Sanders. They benched Shedeur Sanders. Went viral instantly. Pat McAfee summed it up with a single tweet. Brown's gonna brown. Even gambling platforms were thrown into chaos. Sportsbooks had set lines assuming Sanders would start. His absence shifted odds dramatically, forcing FanDuel and DraftKings to issue refunds and deal with furious fantasy players. It became clear that Sanders' absence didn't just hurt the Browns, it destabilized the very ecosystems built around the NFL, and, at the core of it all, whispers spread. This wasn't about football. This was about power. Stefanski, his authority eroded by ownership's draft interference, reportedly made the move as a show of independence, a statement that he, not Haslam, controlled the locker room. But instead of projecting strength, it exposed weakness. Instead of asserting authority, it revealed insecurity. Instead of unifying the franchise, it fractured it beyond repair. The ripple effect stretched to league headquarters. Sanders wasn't just Cleveland's project, he was central to the NFL's broader marketing strategy, a fresh face for a new generation of fans. His benching undermined not just one game, but campaigns designed to carry the season. Other owners reportedly called the league office, furious at how one coach's ego had disrupted what was supposed to be one of the year's showcase events. Roger Goodell, always attentive to ratings, now had a crisis on his hands.